Hi guys, how you going? Welcome back to the channel. Elon Musk changing the world we live in. Today we're going to have a look at, again, hot off the press from the All In podcast with David Sachs, Chamath, Jason Calacanis, and also David Friedberg. So again, we've got sort of a bit of a chat with Elon Musk. Again, it's a long conversation that goes for well over 2 hours. I've cut it back to all the core stuff, so it's only about 18 minutes in total. But it's really interesting insight from Elon Musk in relation to basically quickly summing up basically what happened initially, and basically Elon trying to basically stave off bankruptcy for Twitter. Instigating a lot of changes very quick. He talks about some of the new features that he's quickly released, and basically talks into a bit of detail in relation to the sacking of all the staff and what happened there. But ultimately, it's a really interesting insight from Elon, quite frank and quite straight to the point. So yeah, let's have a look at Elon at his best.
Hey, Sachs,
Oh, hey
I see
guys,
somebody.
look who's here.
Oh, look who it is.
Oh, is it the proprietor?
The proprietor, the owner.
Twitter customer support at your service.
Zach, you spent the last 15 minutes selling your new features
Yeah.
on the podcast. Pretty exciting.
Well, the views are like incredible. Like
Yeah.
And I saw Dave Rubin already made an observation that if you look at New York Times, their views are maybe 1/10 like my views, just me
Yes.
as a lone tweeter. And he said that their followers are inflated by just basically buying a bunch of follower accounts.
Yeah, the views thing is huge. That's why I pushed the views, which is like actually a lot harder feature to implement than you'd think, because the sheer number of transactions per second, like I think it sort of requires system-wide on the order of 3 million transactions a second to actually calculate the view, to calculate and display the view count, FYI, for Twitter Global. So it's like 3 million per second. It's a lot.
For those of you listening, Elon Musk has joined the pod. Elon, how's the first 6 weeks been, generally speaking, of owning Twitter?
Well, it's been quite a roller coaster, which obviously you've witnessed and been on the roller coaster as well.
Yes, the Dramamine. I've taken the Dramamine. It's quite up and down.
I mean, it's exciting, but I think it sort of has its highs and lows, to say the least. But overall, it seems to be going in a good direction, and we've got the expenses reasonably under control, so the company's not like in the fast lane of bankruptcy anymore. And we're releasing features faster than Twitter's history, at the same time as having contained the costs and reduced the cost structure by a factor of 3, maybe 4. So, the verified is obviously that's huge. It's a revenue stream as well as a means of identifying, of like knowing that it's a real person and not a bot or a troll situation. Having the affiliation, organizational affiliation, which I suspect you talked about, that was an idea of David's that was great, to have organizational affiliation, so you can know that somebody is an actual professor at Stanford, or that this particular handle is actually Disney, not someone simply putting "I work at Disney" in their bio. So I think that's going to be really helpful. Just really just having detailed and nuanced verification. So of all the various things that you say you are these things validated by other people and organizations?
Can you tell us how you do product iteration, Elon? Because one of the things that I think some people got jolted by over the last couple of weeks is like a bunch of things got taken away or changed, or rules changed, or policies changed, and there was very quick action. And then people had all this negative feedback about the quick action without communication. But your extraordinary talent is to iterate product to success. Can you just maybe share with people how you do product iteration in this context to help them understand how some of these decisions get made and why moving quickly is so important, and just, how you're doing this? I'm
a big believer in you want to look at the net output. So it's sort of like, what's the batting average? If it's like baseball, the point is not that you hit the ball, but it's like, well, how many home runs you get, and how, what's your actual
slugging percentage?
Yeah, slugging percentage. Yeah. It's like you're going to swing for the fences. You're gonna strike out a bit more, but we're going to swing for the fences here at Twitter, and we're going to do it quickly. So, and I think generally, my error rate and sort of being the chief twit will be less over time. But in the beginning, we'll make obviously sort of a lot more mistakes. Because I'm new to I'm like, hey, I just got here, man. So, I mean, if you look at the actual amount of improvement that's happened at Twitter in terms of having costs that are not insane, and getting and actually shipping product that on balance is good, I think that is that's great. I think we're actually executing well and getting things done. I think we'll have fewer gaffes in the future.
How did you get to your intuition on what the efficient frontier of employees needed to be to make the product better?
Well, yeah.
Well, I observed part of this where you basically asked the question, who here is critical and who here is exceptional?
Yes. I mean, what the criteria is trying to apply, and obviously you're not going to be perfect if you're moving fast, and there's a lot of people you're talking about here, is that anyone who is exceptional at what they do, where the role is critical, they have a positive effect on others, and they are trusted, meaning they put the company's interests before their own, should stay.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and also is up for working hard. Was not Twitter's prior culture.
Yeah, were you surprised that the intersection of that circle and the people that left was basically 25%? Were you surprised it was that deep, or did you think your intuition was like, it's probably somewhere in here?
Well, I think you could just stand back and say, without knowing how many employees Twitter has at all, and say, how many people are really needed to run Twitter? Let's say you don't know what the employee headcount number is at all. How many people are needed to keep the site operational? Let's say, excluding product evolution, you basically have to keep the servers going, and you have to have customer sort of a support function to take down material that is in violation of the law. How many people? What's the minimum number of people?
That's in the hundreds, probably.
It's not exactly. It's not like a giant number.
Yeah.
Twitter still has 2,000 people, right?
Yeah, we still have 2,000 people. It's not nothing. And actually, there's actually on the order of almost 5,000 contractors. Almost all of the what's called trust and safety work, which is the support functions for the site, are done by contractors.
You're doing a lot more to take down hate speech than the company previously was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Hate speech impressions are down by a third, and will get even lower.
Maybe you could speak a little bit to what we discovered, I think, in those early weeks, which was the incentive. The incentive previously was to create as many accounts as possible. And there were a lot of quick fixes to lowering all these, what people might call bot accounts. In some cases, it was people opening many millions of accounts. But we discovered this very early. How easy was it for you with the tech team to maybe lower the bot count and all the fake accounts? Maybe you could speak a little bit to that, because people have seemed to think that, gosh, it's a really hard thing to get rid of bots, and it turns out it isn't.
Well, we still have a fair number of bots in the system, but I think the incentive structure, the way Twitter was set up previously, was this relentless focus on what they called MDAO, which is monetizable daily active users. Although I would say the monetizable part is dubious. But at least things that appeared to be monetizable or could be passed off as monetizable daily active users. So this created an incentive to turn a blind eye to fake accounts. So if the incentive structure is maximize the appearance of monetizable daily active users, then it's a strong incentive to pretend that a bot is real. And that's what happened. So we've taken a lot of steps to reduce the bots and trolls situation. So many. I think you're seeing that in the usage. Like it's not like relatively rare to have your replies filled with crypto scams.
I'm not seeing any anymore. Freeberg, you had a question.
Yeah, I mean, just on your earlier question, Elon, when you first started making changes at Twitter after you bought the business, a lot of people kind of took notice at how extraordinarily swift and significant those changes were.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of technology companies that have CEOs and investors and boards, and we all talk to a lot of them, and they're all now having a conversation like, look at what Elon did at Twitter. How can we do something as aggressive, as swift, as deep? Do you think much about kind of the model you're playing for other businesses and other business leaders, particularly in Silicon Valley, and how you're operating Twitter? Do you ever kind of talk about that? Because I know you mostly talk about your business and you talk about the businesses you're running, but you're having a big influence, I think, in how other people kind of act and behave that are other business leaders and run other technology companies.
I mean, to be frank, I'm not really, I'm thinking about that much, because I'm just thinking about like, how do we, I'm just like, just get Twitter to be in a financially healthy place, and fix the engine of engineering so we can have a rapid evolution of new products. So, and I mean, I guess I'm in sort of in some ways an unfortunate position where I don't have to answer it. It's not public, and we don't have a board really. So, I mean, so I can just go, and I can take actions that are drastic. And obviously, if I make a bunch of mistakes, then Twitter won't succeed, and that'll be pretty embarrassing and sad. But as long as, like I said, as long as the batting average is good, that the wins significantly outweigh the mistakes, then it'll be a great future. And I think I'm very optimistic about where things are headed.
I think a lot of people want to talk about or understand, Elon, your position on freedom of speech and your principles. I'm curious, you've been pretty upfront about it. How do you think about it post-acquisition? What speech should be allowed on the platform? Kanye came back. He just went insane. His account got revoked. What have you learned, I guess, now that you own it? Because you must be getting a lot of inbound from people asking you, hey, how are decisions going to be made, et cetera. You've been clear. Transparency is super important in this, but maybe what are your thoughts on free speech and speech on a platform like this?
Well, I mean, the general principle, I think, is that we should hew close to the law in any given country. So the laws vary quite a lot by country. So I think we should be doing free speech that's close to the law. And that's the general principle. I think there are other things where it's like, okay, we like, for example, like if you're an advertiser, you don't want to necessarily, you don't want your ad, like let's say it's a family movie next to some, NSFW content, even if that content is text. It's like, they'll be like, that's we don't, so that's part of what, so there's more of an allowance for what some might call hate speech on the system, but it's not going to be promoted. It's not like we're not going to be recommending hate speech. It's the risk of stating the obvious. And we're not going to monetize hate speech. So, or negative speech, like that's. Nor would advertisers want us to. I think it's going to be a rare product that wants to be next to seriously negative stuff.
I was going to say, you referred to it as, hey, freedom of speech, but not reach, because this is a very nuanced discussion. Like, should this stuff be able to hit the trends, and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, like it's certainly possible that some things that will be regarded as hate speech will hit trends, but I think it's going to be relatively unusual, especially as we are doing a better job of controlling the bots and troll situation. And I do want to emphasize, like, there's a difference between the bots and trolls. Like, bots are like fully automated accounts, but like a troll farm would be where you've got 100 people in a warehouse somewhere, each with 100 phones, and so they're actually humans, and they're going to pass a captcha test, or and they can reply, and because they're actually got humans, but it's actually 10,000 accounts that are obviously not operating as real people. So that's stuff like that can cause things to trend negatively. That's why I'm like a big proponent of having just a low cost verification capability. And so, but like this is definitely a work in progress. So there's like I said, there's going to be, and I did like one of the first things I said after the acquisition closed was like we're going to make a bunch of mistakes, but then we'll try to recover from them quickly, and that's what we've done. And I think we've generally succeeded in recovering from them quickly, and it's been going pretty well.
Was the Paul Graham and journalist suspensions mistakes? Have you talked about this publicly, about how that all kind of got resolved at the end?
Yeah, I mean, the Paul Graham suspension was definitely a mistake, and I actually called Paul Graham to apologize personally for that one.
Did. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, on the journalist front, I think the journalist suspensions were not a mistake in that for some reason a bunch of journalists thought they were better than everyone else, and that if they engage in doxing and break the rules in various ways, that they're not subject to suspension, even though your average citizen is. And I think that's just messed up. The same rules should apply to people who call themselves journalists as to anyone else on the system. They shouldn't be sort of above the rules. For some reason, they thought they should be. That doesn't make sense. I don't think that's right.
Yeah, and the rules being transparent and upfront, I think that's what everybody's looking forward to. Maybe some just complete clarity and transparency. And you've said from the beginning, when somebody gets suspended or this shadow banning or this sort of what tips into this really weird stuff that we discovered or you discovered, or the journalists discovered during the Twitter files, it's kind of a bummer that people are being sanctioned or shadow banned and they don't know it. If we're going to have a system, the rules should be clear to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So the something I've committed to, and we'll I think probably be able to roll that out in January. Just by the way, there is like a bit of we are not going to be rolling out a ton of new features over Christmas and New Year's and stuff. So there's like the next sort of feature set will probably roll out mid to late January, and hopefully in that we can include information about why an account is suspended or has what is called within Twitter visibility filtering, aka shadow banning. So, and some of these things are like there's a lot of things that just happen accidentally, where there's the rules in the system that are meant to detect whether someone's a sort of bot or troll or like brigading, where they're and then an account is sort of innocently caught up in that. So like there was some accounts just suspended yesterday because temporarily suspended. Like they got 12-hour suspensions because someone in trust and safety thought that they had posted a nude photo of Hunter Biden or something.
Here we go. Oh no.
But they hadn't actually done that. I don't know. It was just basically a mistake. There were some accounts that got a 12-hour suspension yesterday for in error.
Hey, Sax,
Oh, hey
I see
guys,
somebody.
look who's here.
Thanks to, again, Jason and the guys at the All In podcast for that excerpt. Again, it's quite amazing to have quite frank discussions with the CEO of such important companies like the likes of Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink and now Twitter. So again, really good to hear from Elon, and the fact that again, I think he feels as if with Twitter, expenses are reasonably under control now. The company is not sort of in that fast lane heading towards bankruptcy. Again, they've reduced the cost structure by about a factor of 3 or even 4. And I think that sort of puts Twitter in a great place. And I dare say that'll potentially take a lot of pressure off now, especially with the rest of the media focusing so much on how Twitter is bringing down Tesla's share price out in the marketplace. And again, it was really good to, I suppose, get some insights now. Again, he's made a few changes now. Initially, he's got the verified blue tick happening, which again is now generating a revenue stream for them. He's got a means now of actually identifying you, making sure you're a real person and not a bot or a troll. He's now just recently organised the organisational affiliation tick. So that's all happening. It was also interesting to hear about, I suppose, the baseball analogies, and again the slugging percentage in relation to a lot of the changes that sort of he's been instigating. And again, a sort of quote, we're going to swing for the fences at Twitter, but we're going to do it quickly. There will be mistakes, but hopefully my error rate as being the chief tweet will be less over time. So, and again, and it's good though that when he is making mistakes, that he is addressing them quite quickly, which is fantastic. But again, I think when you're testing the boundaries and moving so quickly, it's going to happen. But as long as you sort of don't sit back and stick to your guns when you know you're wrong. So I don't think Elon would do that. It was also very interesting in relation to when Jason asked the question about how did you choose who you were going to sack at Twitter when you first came in. And it was really interesting to hear, I suppose, David Sachs, when it was, he'd sort of, again, got Elon sort of going back to sort of, I think, where we first started, where it was, okay, who is critical? Who here is exceptional? Who are trusted and will put the company's interests first? And who wants to work hard, simply. So, and I think probably in any organisation, there's a few things that would be, I think, essential in any business. And I think that what made it very quickly for him to be able to, cull an organisation back by 75% headcount, where it's currently sort of sitting at about 2,000 staff. And then it was interesting, obviously, some sort of in relation to, I suppose, his comments in relation to hate speech and how basically impressions were already down by a third since taking over. And he's made it obviously a big sort of priority for these guys in relation to addressing hate speech. And again, obviously, Ye is an example. Again, he was banned. Then Elon allowed him to come back after sitting out for a period of time. And then again, he persisted and he banned him again. So obviously no sort of favoritism there or anything like that. And then there's obviously so many moderators out there controlling all this. So at the end of the day, they're going to make mistakes. But again, if they do make mistakes, that they will be addressed. And then also, he, I suppose, elaborated a little bit more in relation to the bots and the trolls, and that the old Twitter was really, really heavily incentivized with this monetizable daily active users, and was almost like they didn't care if they were bots or if they were real, and a lot of the staff seemed to be really pushed in that direction. And I dare say, obviously, they would use that with the amount of daily active users to actually sell that to advertisers. And again, it looks as if Elon's basically stopped this. So he's been able to quite quickly, easily address the bots and the trolls. Trolls probably a little bit difficult because the trolls are actually real people. But I dare say he'll be able to tackle that on quite well. So I think ultimately, and again, I think he summed it up really, really well, was, let's get Twitter into a financially healthy place, fix the engineering, so we can sort of have a rapid evolution of new products. And this is where, again, because he owns the business, and there is no board, there are no shareholders, he gets to make, I suppose, all the decisions. And at the end of the day, ultimately, he's going to act in the best interest of Twitter. Because if he makes a lot of bad mistakes, it's going to end up costing him. So, as he said, let's hope the wins outweigh the mistakes, and it'll all be good. And then there was a bit more of some insight into sort of free speech. And I think Jason coined the phrase, freedom of speech, but not reach. And so obviously there will be hate speech and so forth still appearing on Twitter. But again, it will not be pushed. It will not trend. And it definitely will not be monetized. And then he also touched on the doxing. And obviously those journalists that were banned for a short period of time. Again, he then put a tweet out, should they be banned? And the vote was no. So he, again, re-instigated them, but only if they would meet the certain criteria in relation to doxing, which, again, I believe some did and some didn't. And again, like he said, there'll be a lot of mistakes probably made there, but we'll try and recover quickly from them. Which I think he has, so which has been fantastic. And then he also touched on, I suppose, there'll be now that he's rolled out the blue tick, that's all happening. He's organised the organisational affiliation, and then probably mid to late January, he's talking about now basically, if your account is suspended, you'll actually know why, and if you've been shadow banned, you'll know why as well. AKA visibility filtering. So that was a really interesting session. They're all the best bits. Again, if you want to go check out the whole video from the guys over at the All In podcast, again, it's really, really interesting. A great diverse group of people there. With David Sachs, David Friedman, Chamath, and Jason. Again, a lot of these have gone way back with Jason, with Elon for quite some time. So go check it out. And again, if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Again, subscribe to the channel. It's only relatively new. And again, any comments or questions below, greatly appreciated. All right, I'll see you at the next one. Cheers, guys. Bye.